Thank you very much, Collins. Thank you, brothers and sisters. I'm really happy to be here, and they gave me 30 minutes, which I think I could really spend. I could speak for 2 hours. I'm a preacher, so that will not be a problem, but I have to keep the time because, you know, there's this joke that Africa has the time. Africans don't really, that is not a compliment. It's actually an insult that we don't care about the time. And somebody who helped me to always be conscious of time said, if you speak longer than what is allotted to you, it means you think those people who are going to be speaking after you are less important. You get it, eh? So you keep time for the sake, for the respect of the others who are going to be speaking after you. Bishop, you are here. I would really like to, and I'll say this also to another day, to thank the Church of Nigeria, particularly the primate, for giving us this huge conference hall for our very small training. Therefore, I'm going to encourage you, if you can, spread a bit, so that at least, why don't we leave 2 places before another one? You see what I mean? Because we are going to be here for a long time. Like these 3 people staying together, why? And all these other seats are empty. Why can't you move Collins and go to the other ones here? So that we really have space, which the primate has given us. Why don't we enjoy it? Now, I want to speak about youth and the Agenda 2063. I believe by now you must have read it. Have you? How many of you have read that document? Can you raise your hands? How many of you have seen it anywhere, digitally or anywhere? If you have not, there is a problem with you. Because how do you go to a conference on a document which you should know that it's on the website of AU, and you haven't even cared to even have a look? That's would be my second point. My first point is the evolution of Agenda 2063. How did it come about? Oh, let me not forget, before I go there, I would like to, you will hear that in the introductions, there are many from the Anglican, the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion, several who are with us. We would like very much to thank you on behalf of those who are not here, even though we shall do that again, that you have devoted, the youth of this church have devoted so much time preparing and organizing this training for us. Therefore, yesterday when we met the primate, and he asked us if we could invite some more from this church so that they can benefit. And we said, of course, we cannot ask them to be looking for hotels and picking us from the airport and organizing everything and COVID tests and everything. But when it comes the content, we say, no, you are just one like me from Zambia or somebody. So we really did invite them intentionally yesterday so that they can not only save us, but some of them can really gain the knowledge which we have here all to have. So we welcome you, but I really want to say thank you very much for the time you have taken to help our office to really organize as the hosting church. In programs of AACC, there is usually one, sometimes more, who are hosting, and they do a lot of work. And this time it was the the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion, and they gave it to the youth, and the primate even assigned the bishop to be in charge of that. That is really serious commitment, apart from giving us this wonderful facility. So the Africans thought they need to, in 2013, as the leaders were gathering for the 50th anniversary of the OAU, that's how it started, Organization of African Unity. They said, we had all these aspirations, all the commitments in 1963, when all of a sudden it was an independence movement at that time. They had many hopes, but then they realized not everything has been realized as expected. So they say, let us have a blueprint for the next 50 years. And they came up, after very long conversations, they came up with this Agenda 2063. That's the meaning. That in the next 50 years from 2013, this is where we want to go. It's a political statement. It's signed by all African countries, developed by the African Union, and that's it. Agenda 2063. What do we put on agenda? There are aspirations, there are this. I hope you'll have time to really go through those, so I don't want to go through those. The idea being, there are so many agreements, so many things which Africans agree on, but they never do. Now, the second point why we have this training is because we have realized that many people, even governments, members of parliament, leave alone ordinary citizens. Many have not even heard about it. I do test when I'm visiting and meeting some government people somewhere. I say, hey, how about Agenda 2063? Then you see their eyes become bigger because they don't know what you are talking about. But AACC, from the beginning, was asked even by the AU to popularize the Agenda 2063, to make it known and understood, and I will say why. So we thought, for us, let us focus on the youth. Two years ago, AACC was invited to seek 6 people from the continent who would go to Germany and speak about Agenda 2063 to the Germans in different settings, universities, churches, small groups, organizations like Bread for the World, and meet the ministries which are responsible for Africa in the German government, because they think it is African initiative, which we have written ourselves after very long discussions, and we said, this is our goal. We want to go this direction. And because they have always supported Africa and African initiatives, they wanted us to explain now to the German people, what is this and how is it going? So we went. And we went around and spoke. People are excited about, finally, the Africans themselves. Of course, you know, our preacher said 1884, when they officially divided. The colonialism started earlier, but they officially said, okay, let's draw borders so that we don't stamp on each other and invade each other. And do you know why it was Germany which convened this meeting? Do you know why? Because they felt, this Bismarck felt, Germany came to colonialism very late, when everything was already taken. That's it, because they had only Tanganyika, they called German East Africa, Tanganyika, Rwanda, Burundi, as German East Africa, and they had only Togo and Namibia. That's it. The rest of Africa was taken by France, by Holland, by others, Portugal. So they, please, let's come together and agree. So that's what they did. And now they are very much in forefront of supporting Africa, even making Africa the center of their EU presidency last year. Because, and if you see how much they are invested in Africa to liberate us, think of South Sudan and everything, and all of us, all the countries. So when they heard, okay, now Africa has its own agenda, developed by themselves, they say this is where we want to go. Okay, we want to hear and support it. While our own people have no idea. Now, many European countries, they would like Africa to be free. They would like Africa to develop. They would like Africa to be independent and prosper. That's why they have been giving us so much money, both as churches, but also as governments and NGOs. So when they see an effort, they would like to support it. The question is whether we see that the Agenda 2063 is that serious. Do we really take it serious? We as part of larger civil society, as churches, when we look, we say, what are our leaders doing here? Last year I was speaking at the Tana Forum, which is a kind of a symposium, political one, with most of them African government representatives in Addis Ababa, and I was the only one who is not employed by the state. So I said, well, I'm free, I can say whatever I want, and I'm not going to lose my job. Because you see what the others say is from our capitals and this diplomatic language, because they don't want to make anybody angry. And I said, we don't understand, we are civil society, whether you, our government, when you put your signature on a document, you even understand what it is and what does that signature actually mean to you as a human being. If you read that Agenda 2063, there are some things which they agreed. One of them, there should be borderless travel. No visa-free travel for all Africans going everywhere. Because they heard it's in the Schengen states, they want to copy that. But how is it now? And they set a date, 2018. How is it now? How much money did you have to pay to come to Nigeria? Now, where you go, any place, except like 5 countries, which have put it in operation, including Benin, where they said all Africans just come, no visa fee. That was a goal, that all of Africa will be like that in 2018. They missed it. Then they said, we want by 2020, that was 7 years before, to silence the guns. I believe some of you have been part of the campaign of writing signatures to go and complain to the AU by AACC youth. That's why we pushed on the youth to say, you agreed that by 2020 we silence the guns. But unfortunately, we have more places starting armed conflict than they were 2019 when I was boasting in front of Germans. And it is Africa's weakness that when we make commitments, when we make agreements, we actually do not follow them. We don't, some don't even care they are there. And this is not actually on Agenda 2063. Maybe it's a cultural thing. Think of your churches. Even in the churches, that the churches agree, okay, we are going to be giving 10% of our income to something. They don't give. When you are in the ecumenical cycles, the World Council of Churches, I'm not sure about the Anglican Communion, but all the Lutherans, I'm Lutheran, all the Lutherans, the Lutheran World Federation, you go and look at the list every year, we have agreed with fees. The same with AACC. oh, please, every year we shall be giving this. They don't give. And when you look there with Archbishop Musa Philibus from Nigeria, the president of LWF, looking at the list of those who haven't paid, almost all Africans. I was there. See, all these Africans boasting, we are the biggest churches, the center of gravity has come to the south, to Africa, all this boasting. But when it comes to really paying, you don't see where they are. Huh? And if you say, oh, colonialism, huh? Now, the document is very good. If only those commitments were fulfilled, and now you have time this week to look at them. The ACC decided to popularize it so that citizens, that's the goal and why you are here, citizens can, if they know, they can hold their own governments accountable. You can't prosecute the government, but at least you can raise questions, which make them very uncomfortable. Say, hello, didn't you sign this? I think one of the agreements was the African Continental Free Trade Area, which was officially operationalized last year. If you see the effort of Paul Kagame to really push it so that his fellow people who signed it with him 7 years earlier agreed, how he was trying to push them, and not until today, not all governments have ratified it so that it can be used. And when they ratify it, they come back with new things to make sure that nothing changes. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area is one of the goals of the Agenda 2063. But where is it? Who has ratified it? Now we would like to see the young people raise questions to your member of parliament and through your Facebook or whatever to say, this is what you agreed. Why are you, why do we see all these trucks of goods between Kenya and Uganda? Why? People are staying on the border, I don't know, a whole week trying to clear, while you have East African Community Agreement, Protocol, One Custom Union, and then you have Africa Continental Free Trade Area, but there is nothing happening. This is what we would like people to know and start raising voices and asking their government, hey, didn't you sign? What did you mean? Now, we are counting on the youth. Why? That's my last point. Number one, it is in your best interest. You know, some of us are not quite sure whether 2063 will still be on this world. You know what I mean? You know biology, and God takes care of some things. Huh? It's only 40 years. Some of you will be 60-something. Yeah? If you don't care about that future, which is your future, as we say in our slogan, then who should do that? The politicians, many of them are 70, some are not, are refusing to retire, some are revising their birthdays. So, but most likely, you can revise your birthday, but at the end of the day, you know, you are mortal. Eh? But you will most likely be there. You are the ones who are supposed to see the fruition of what is aspired, of all these aspirations in Agenda 2063. You are supposed to be the beneficiaries. That's why you have to take it seriously. The second, the youth are the majority. Sometimes people don't it's very difficult to define who is youth. In Africa only, though. But at least in AACC we go by the definition of the African Union, because there is no other better criteria. We can say, okay, this is it. They say someone below 35. That is the limit of being youth. Sorry, if you are here, you are above. At least by African Union and definition, you are really not quite. But some people, I have seen in my church, some people start youth choirs. Then until they are 50, they are in the youth choir because they started it. Then you ask, are you still youth? They coin that, They coin that, youth at heart, because they're not very different from politicians. But statistically, you are the majority in the continent. And in democracy, in democratic countries, numbers matter. You know that. Numbers matter. We have heard some evaluation of maybe this, our colleague from Zambia will tell us. When the youth decide in election, we are going to support this one, then that person will always win. That means if they really go to vote. Because some they support someone, but they are not even registered. So you can see on rallies, all these young people going and shouting, and these people think they have votes, but many of these are not even registered. So they don't actually vote. But if they are organized and they vote, whoever they vote for will always win. That's enormous power, enormous political power, because the youth can really change a government. That's why clever politicians target the messages which promise jobs and things for the young people. They talk so much about the young people. Of course, after election, they forget, but and when they come back next time, those who are youth are no longer youth, so they start over. That's enormous power, which you have. There is nowhere else to go than in Africa. You have heard our slogan, Africa, my home, Africa, my future. It's not a joke. I have lived in Europe. I studied in America for 5 years. I have lived in Europe for 13 years. Actually, I have 10 more minutes. And I know what is there. But when you hear people still dream, well, we'll be going to I don't know which country to prosper because of those doctors and others we have been told about, you go ask them. If you don't want humiliation of not being wanted in the neighborhood, you can't even get a house to rent because you are black. You'll never get a promotion because you are black. My own son was studying in Germany and hotel management. He went to an internship in a hotel in Cologne, Germany. He found a certain guy from Mozambique with a master's degree. African young man. They were working together. And then afterwards, when he came back, he said, you know, Dad, I leave my luggage here. When I finish, he was studying in Asia. You can bring back my luggage. I'm not coming back here. Why? This man, with a master's degree and several years of experience, always being supervised by little girls without even a degree. Because he's black, if there are big pots to carry, it is the black ones. if there are a lot of work to rearrange the rooms, turning out tables, it's the Africans. He said, if I stay here, I'll have a never be in dignified life. So he left, he's now in Tanzania. I hope you understand that your future is here. And the future and the hope of the African youth is just here. Now the last one is, we hope you are able to read. Our politicians they like the youth for their votes, but they don't want to give them opportunity. There are some interesting people like Museveni. I like Museveni, by the way. He was fighting from Tanzania, and I understand his language. But when I hear him say, oh, I haven't seen anybody with experience, there are all these young boys and girls, I wonder if anyone asks him, how old were you when you formed this political movement? How old were you when you became a president of Uganda for the first time? They kind of tend to forget. But think of Kagame. How old was he? People from Rwanda. When he became even president. 29. Julius Nyerere was 24 when he formed the ruling party. 24. Think of Sankara, think of whoever, think of Obasanjo. How old was he? Now he's seen as a big statesman, 80-something years old, but if you look back, when did he start? They never start in their 40s and 50s. They're usually late 20s, early 30s. That's it. So we say, let nobody despise your youth. The Bible says in 1 Timothy. And Paul writes, I write to you young people because you are strong and you have overcome the devil. That's our calling. Let nobody tell you you can't lead because you are youth. But don't expect anybody to give it to you on a silver platter. You have to fight for it. Because somebody told me, in this world, you don't get what you deserve, but you get what you fight for. Therefore, I was actually praising the primate and the Anglican Church here for appointing young bishops. You don't have to have always bishops in their 50s. Some of the constitutions, you can't be bishop until you are 50. I know some of them. In my own church, 45 and above. But why? If you can have a president of 35, a bishop, no, until you are 50 because you have experience. Experience is double-edged. Sometimes it's bad experience. And who needs a 45-year, a 30-year experience of corruption? We could do with less. So we are trying also in AACC, that maybe you have read our newsletter if you go to our website. We have appointed the next director for finance and administration, a youth, 33 years old. 33 and female. Which, you look at the experience, you look at the education, you look at the competence, you look at the IQ through our interviewing system, you say, well, this has it. So no fear. Oh, let's experience for what? Some of these experiences are not even wanted. And I told them, I don't want a long time of orientation and handing over. Let us start over. Why do you always want to have the same things? And then one of them is here, our executive, how do you, what is the title? Program Associate. We have a big project for the Horn of Africa, of peace especially. And we were looking, of course we didn't hire just because she's youth. No, she's only 27. But she's a program executive at AACC. And why? She knows. She has the experience, she has the education. It was a rigorous process. And she just went through and passed. We are not scared of giving responsibility to the youth. But you must also be ready to take those responsibilities and encourage your fellow young people to take responsibility, especially to bring political transformation and accountability, not only in the government, but also in the churches. Thank you very much.